Hi, boys and girls. Now, last week we started our data management unit by looking at how to organize your data and keep track of it using tally marks. Everyone seemed to do a great job with that. We moved on and looked at the first type of graphs called a picture graph or a pictograph, where pictures are used to represent the information. And today and this week we're going to be introduced to a new type of graph called a bar graph. It's called that because it uses bars to represent the data that was collected. So this is an example of a bar graph. I'm going to go through it with you together, showing you all the different parts and what they mean. And then we're going to practice reading this graph, looking at what the information tells us. So the first thing you want to look at when you see a bar graph or any graph is the title, because it will show you and tell you exactly what the graph is about. All graphs will have a title, always. The second thing you want to look at is this bottom, because along the bottom are the choices. So a group of people must have been asked, what is your favorite sport? And these are the choices they were given: soccer, hockey, football, and dance. Those choices will always be written along the bottom of the graph. And underneath the choices is a label for what those choices were, what that information is. And those were the different sports that they got to choose from. There will always be a label at the bottom. Now, if you see along the side these numbers, this is what we call a scale. And this scale, these numbers represent how many people voted for each of those choices. And that's what our label tells us, the number of people. Now, scales sometimes might go to 10, sometimes might go to 20, sometimes they might have to go even higher. It all depends on how many people answered the survey question, okay? If you take a look at this graph, we can see right away that dance had the most votes, because the bar on dance goes the highest. Now, in order for us to know how many people chose dance, we look at what number the bar goes to. 9. That means 9 people chose dance as their favorite sport. Football, we look across, goes right to the number 3, which means 3 people chose football. Hockey goes right across to the number 7. So 7 people chose hockey as their favorites. And soccer goes across to number 4. 4 people chose soccer. Now, my graph, my board doesn't have any lines to help line up our bars and our numbers. Yours will always have lines, either grid paper or lines to follow, so you can see exactly how high to make your bars. It's important that you're careful and you're neat about where your bars go, because if this bar was just a little bit messy or a little bit too high, it would show a different number, the number 10, and that data would be wrong. So when you're making bar graphs and reading bar graphs, it's important that they were done carefully so that it shows the right kind of information. When we see bar graphs, we can use them to compare the data, just like we did with the picture graphs. So we can compare these sports. We can say things like football was liked the least by people. Or we could say the most people chose dance as their favorite sport. We could say hockey was liked more times than football. We could say soccer got 1 more vote than football. We could say football was liked the least amount. And we can continue to compare between all of these choices. This graph also tells us how many people were surveyed altogether. And the way we find that information is by adding up each of the bars. So 4 plus 7 would be 11, plus 3 is 14, plus 9 means 23 people in total were asked this question and answered. Today's work that's assigned to you is an example of a bar graph. This week you're going to practice reading bar graphs, answering questions about them, and making your own bar graphs based on data that's given to you. These parts of the graph are important. Titles, choices, labels, the bars, labels on the side, and the scale. Those parts of the graph always need to be there. If something's missing, it makes the graph harder to read. Good luck with your task today. If you need any help, let me know, and I can't wait to practice some more graphs with you on Thursday at our online session. Have a good week.